So for the next step, we'll attach the linoleum for the gun deck. Now, ideally, the two halves should have been glued onto the framework before it was slid into place. But because we've progressed without doing that, we need to cut them to the individual ones. So I've already done one side, and then we'll do the other before we glue them in. So as you can see, the white strips are where the bulkheads would sit, and then hopefully you can see there's a thin black line which would be the center of the bulkhead. So we can now just cut straight through, ignoring that center line because we're fitting them in between the spaces. Okay. So the points to notice here is this black section will be on show because this is on the outside of the hull. So we want to make sure that we fit this in one piece without cutting it. And there's a similar area here for this part here. So this gun is on the corner. As you can see, the hull actually goes in over the black. So we want to make sure we keep them. We don't want to cut through the black line because that will be visible. And then there's a couple of laser cut card bits to fit in here. And that just forms a bottom lip for the hull skin to fit onto. Okay, so these are pretty straightforward. We actually don't need the ones where there's nothing on view, but they've obviously just printed it in one piece to make it easier. But you could get away without doing these. And then also you can see there's a black mark. There's actually a piece to make up and that glues onto there. And that's for the fluke of the anchor to sit into. And then you can see the gun quadrant places. So once we get this glued down, we'll fit these in and then we'll progress with the hull. So let me cut the rest of these out and then we'll come back. So that's all the linoleum deck pieces cut out and fitted. One thing I did notice was on the end here, we have a gap between the two halves. And because this section here is actually going to be open and form the Admiral's walk, what I think I'll do is I'll discard these pieces and I'll use these ones here, which are hidden fully anyway, and form new pieces here to join and fill in this exposed area here. So I can't see how the kit would accommodate that, considering it's exposed. Even if we attach these as per the instructions to the full halves, you've still got this section left here. So, I mean, I could just cut a little section and fit it in, and I might actually just do that. Or I might fill with two new halves and just extend it slightly to accommodate that. So you're still going to have a join, whether we have inserted or two new halves via a single join, I'll decide later. So I went ahead and glued down the linoleum gun deck. What I also did was I stole a strip of the paper here. These won't be seen anyway, but I stole a strip of paper here and I filled in that little gap at the back there, and then that would go into there, same the other side. However, that wasn't necessary because I actually found that this bit gets the wood deck on it anyway. Because it did seem strange having that gap there, and then that would fit onto there as per the invitation. Okay, so what I also did was I've installed the last of these laser cut forms, and they just cut to the bottom of the upper hull because these bits of deck are exposed. Okay, so we'll do the lower hull now, and then when time to plate the upper hull, we can do the gun mounts at that stage. So we'll put this aside for the time being. So now it's time to do the hull plating on the lower hull. So there's a couple of things we want to be careful here. The P is on the right hand side and L's left. Because some of these are very close in shape, we'll cut them out and deal with them together, just so we don't get them mixed up. So we've got, starting from the front, obviously we can't get these confused, but we've got panels 1 through to 8 on here, and 9, 10, 11 here as well. 12 is both sides and 13 is the back, which is the same. So what we need to do, or what I like to do, is, remember that's pointing to the bow. What we do is, and use a pencil, don't use pen in case the ink comes through. And use a soft pencil so you're not marking it either. Just mark them before you cut them free, because like I say, down the track, if you've got them all cut out, they're all going to look very similar. Just double check. Yep, so keep going. That's 5. I'm just putting the arrow to show what's the front. And I'm holding it up so I can see the light coming through to see where the panel is. So, and then last one's 8. So I'll do the same for the rest of them and we'll come back. So that's all the panels roughly cut out. So we've got the start from the back, the main stern that goes across both halves, then the next panel. And then at the front we've got the actual lower and upper hull with the anchor locations. So that's all the left hand side. Here's the right hand side. It would have been nice if they left a bit more space between them for rough cutting out. So after I've done a few, such as this one here, doesn't leave much for doing the trimming. So I've left them and I'll trim one side, I think. The instructions say to start from panel 6, which would be this one here. But what I'll do is I'll do all the straight cuts at the top, the bottom and the top, and I'll leave some fat on this panels, and then I'll see how they're going to align, because I don't want to find out when I get to the last panel that I've got a strip too short. I'll start cutting the tops and bottoms and just seeing how they're going to align. So what I want to do before I move forward is I'm just going to confirm, and I'll mark on the actual numbers on the side. Looking forward from the top to the bow, this is the right hand side, this is the left hand side. So when we flip it over, we've now got the left hand side closest to us, because I want to confirm the actual numbers match the panels, because remember this one doesn't have a number, and then we've got panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. This is a panel we're supposed to start on. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Part 12 does both sides, and that's right, so it's on here. I don't know if you can see that, it's off camera maybe. And then the stern covers the last 2 sections. So this is 6 here, so I'm just going to write on in pen 6L, because what I want to show you is this is 6L. It's number 7 in the upper deck because it starts at a different one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But we've just shown that the lower hull, the numbers are different. So what I'll do is I'll just write on all of them, and then that way when I come to glue them on, I know 6 to 6. If I go by the top, I'd get a mess of glue and everything before I realise the numbers are off. Okay, so I'll just mark these up now. So I can now start cutting these out and roughly fitting them. Okay. So the first step I'm going to do is just go through and cut the bottoms and tops. So these will just be straight cuts. And then I'll start fitting them up against the hull, and then I'll start trimming the sides. I don't want to just dive in and trim them straight to shape, just in case there's discrepancies, and then I'm going to end up with gaps. Because the bottom fits against the edge of the keel, or against the keel, these are virtually all just straight cuts. So again, with the ruler on the printed side, just to protect it from knife slips, we can start cutting these out. Okay. And then we'll do the same for the top. These should be pretty much square here. These tops don't have to be 100% accurate because they will, I think from this line here, fold into the hull. So we don't have to worry too much about them. The important ones to worry about is the larger the squares, because that's where we have the outlet from the hull. There's a piece to fold up and push into the square holes. I think it's like waste chutes or garbage chutes or something, so that has to be accurate. The rest of these, it fold over and into the hull, we don't have to worry so much about. Okay, so that's the first panel cut, which is 8L. I'll do the rest of them and then we can come back and see how we're going to attach them to the hull. So with all the tops and bottoms now cut and trimmed to shape, it's now time to do the sides. So what we'll do is we want to be as accurate as possible, and we'll cut right through. And we'll want to trim it as smoothly as possible, because remember, we'll have to do each side like this and they have to match up. Done off a wee bit there. Okay, so that's a problem. I really wanted to go through in the first time, just in case I go offline. There we go, a wee bit at the side there. That's okay, I was able to trim that. So that's not too bad. Okay, that's pretty good. So we just go gently over the edge, just in case any of it raised up. So we'll do the other side. I'm going to try this. This is more a Tamiya blade. It's made by Ofa. I want to give this one a try as well. And again, I want to try and go through in one hit. Run off a wee bit. Okay, that wasn't quite as successful as the other side. Tiny bit of white left. I think I'll leave it though. So what we need to do is do the edge colouring now. So I found this Faber-Castell. I like the pick pens because they don't bleed, and the raw umber is a pretty good match for this. So as before, if you always come in from the back side, also if we kind of drag it downwards, it kind of hopefully takes away any raised edges. If we go down the way, pulls it down. So I don't know if you can actually see that bit. If you can see the white and the coloured edges, it's a very good match for the paper. We're just going again, if we pull it downwards, That's kind of got looking pretty good. So that white edges are they're very faint, but they've disappeared now with the edge colouring. So what I'll do is this is number 6. Yep. I'll install this with both cut edges, and then what we'll do is when I come to do 7 and 5, I'll cut one edge and butt it up to see how it does and leave the other edge. And once I get that butted edge good, I'll cut that and then we'll do the other side. So the next step now is to stick these onto the hull. I went ahead and installed the first panel on the left hand side, number 6, just to get a feel for the process and how the paper is going to act. It's not too bad, tight across the bottom, pretty level between the two bulkheads, and I managed to form the lip on the top. I haven't glued this flap in yet because as per the plans it's supposed to go horizontally into the hull, but because of the foam and the additional strengthening section here, I don't know how it's going to affect the upper skin if I glue this flat. So I'll leave it for the time being, and then what I might do is just trim that so we'll leave the top surface but it doesn't kick out the upper hull. Okay, so now that I've done that one, what I'll do is I'll do number 6 on the right hand side and we'll film that. So the first thing I want to do is just center it where it's going to sit evenly on both bulkheads. And once I'm happy, and also to try and align the other side, but it shouldn't be too bad. Once I'm happy with the position, I'll just mark it with the pencil on the edges. And that's just so I can go straight back in once I've got the glue applied. What we also need to do is just see how it's going to form around the hull. And where it sits right now, it's still pretty much split evenly with half and half on the other bulkheads. But what I also want to check is where the relationship with this top lip. So it's kind of on that little notch anyway. So I just want to mark just with a pencil, just so that side's okay. Because we want to pre-bend that fold to make it easier to bend onto that top lip. So it's pretty simple, just using a ruler, make sure you've got a firm grip on it and just kind of start to form that. Doesn't have to be as tight yet, because what we'll do is once we get it on, that'll come good. And then because I should have did the other one first, but because it then goes in and then up, we need to form the other bend, which I should have did first. So it's probably on that line there. I'm just pressing hard against the edge of the ruler, which is relatively square. Hopefully, there's a wee mark I've put in, but hopefully that will smooth out once we come to the next stage. So with that top crease, just roughly put it in, doesn't have to be exact. And this is the kind of area we need to form the curve. So just using an old hobby knife. And what I might do is, I don't know if you can see, that was a crease I put on accidentally, so if I can come in here, I might be able to smooth that out. Yeah, you shouldn't see it on the top, that's good. So we'll now put a bit of just a rough bend, and it takes the springiness out of the paper. So now when we position it, it's almost formed by itself. So that will help when it comes to placing it, kind of sit in its proper position. And that's looking pretty good. That's not too bad there, okay. So, time to apply some glue. Just going to use Woodworker's PVA again. And what I'll do is I'll apply glue. There's no point applying it where the foam is, so I'll just go around the edge, and I'll probably do it in maybe 2-3 steps. So I'll do up to here, which you can actually see or you may not be able to, but there's the false keel line there. Okay. And just get your roller handy on this, and your ruler, just for pressing down. We don't want to use fingers, so in case we distort it. So, final check, valves that way, arrow 6-6, let's do it. So if I keep my fingers there to mark. I'm going to be quite liberal for this one, because I don't have to worry about the adjacent ones, and I want this to grip well. Okay. So we're using our little marks as references. Okay, so let's just start at the top here. Make sure that goes down well, and then we can come in and roll it around. Just lifting up a bit at the corner there, so. Using the flat ruler saves your fingers pressing and indenting or distorting the paper. So. And that's as far as we went with the glue, so that's just concentrating on the edges because there's nothing in the middle. So glad I did the foam, because when you're working between, you've only got 0.5 millimeter on each side to try and line this up. So by using the foam, even if you're off a wee bit, you're still getting a bit of a bond. And the foam stops you inadvertently pressing and sinking in the paper. That's pretty much bonded. Okay, so it's a wee bit too far to the stern, because I'm showing a lot more, but not a great deal. And that looks like it's going to go around pretty well. So we'll let this go off before, because we're going to have to lift this up a wee bit to get the brush under. And we'll finish gluing this on. It looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that. So we'll continue gluing this up now. So if we lift it up, we can see where the glues finally went off. So what we'll do is we'll try and glue this all in one. So just going in there with the glue. And then using our roller, just do it a few times, just keep working it till we get the edges bonded down. We'll go right up to the edge. We'll glue this down firmly here, but we'll leave this and come back and work it. We'll just concentrate on one edge at a time now. Normally I wouldn't be able to do this just rubbing the edge with a finger, because if this wasn't here, you risk denting that into the gap. And then that looks not too bad. So the next step is we'll come in and glue this lip here and form that. But I really want to leave this section here to go off fully, because when we start forming that, when we bend that in, if this isn't finally set, it risks popping up on the curve, so we'll come back and do that. Okay, so let's glue that lip section in now. Just pull it up a wee bit so I can see down into the, and then I'm being quite liberal with the glue down in there because it will help soften it up, and also we might get a lot of glue sucking into the cardboard forms. So now we'll just use the ruler to press it over and in. So I'm pressing down and in to make sure the paper bonds to the top of the hull and against the side of the hull. That's looking quite good. And the good thing is it hasn't popped away from the side as well. So if you remember from the instructions, this edge here is supposed to be rounded. And I think we're getting, although I didn't sand it very well to be round, I think with the thickness of the paper, it's providing that effect anyway. Hopefully you can see the curve and then the lip here. So that's turned out not too bad. Again, I'm not going to glue this vertical bit. I think I'll probably end up trimming that, maybe 1 or 2 mil, and then get rid of the bulk of it. I'm just concerned that when we come to do the upper skin, this edge that might show through. Probably not, but I'll see when we get there. Okay, so I'm stopping the video at this point now. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead, skin up both sides, probably to 10 and 3, and then we can come back. In the beginning of the next video, we'll show, so 12 is the one piece, it goes both sides, and then this part here is the stern, and again that's one piece. I'll put the front here, I'll stop here, and again in the next video we'll finish off the front because we've got the front bow piece and then this panel here, and there's some kind of relationship going on here. Okay, so that will do for this video, and then we'll come back later when I've done most of it and we'll finish it off in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.